The Cousin is an Italian drama film by the director Aldo Lado that was released in 1974 from a novel by Ercole Petty. Like other young bourgeois men, Enzo learns about love with servants and married women. None excite him like his alluring cousin Agatha, who has tantalized him with love games since adulthood. Her ambition, however, is to keep her intact and make an advantageous marriage. Channel Viaggio Celebrity presents top 10 movies like The Cousin 1974. Number 10. Widziadlo 1984. Early 20th century, Piotr, a rich landowner and father of a large family, is driven to the edge by haunting memories of his dead wife Angelica. Everything in the house reminds him of her. In every woman, in his new wife Ola, neighbor, maid, he sees her image. And because of his obsession, his new wife is driven to taking a lover who mysteriously becomes paralyzed. Piotr keeps a special house on his property dedicated to Angelica and daydreams about making love to her there. Meanwhile, his teenage son Paulette begins to wonder who his parents are and disappears from the house every night. Piotr's visions are so intense and real that when he sees his son with Senka, a mute young local girl, while getting his first taste of sensual experience, he shoots and wounds her because deluded. He thinks she is Angelica. Number 9. Ariella 1980. Ariella is a confused, beautiful and rich young woman, rejected by her parent and sibling. She feels like a stranger in her own home and seeks an explanation for her existence. One day she discovers that her life is really a farce. An orphan, she is the sole heir of the fortune of the true parent and was adopted by a couple of uncles, interested in enjoying their wealth. She was raised by her uncle Dr. Rodrigo and his wife Helena. She then decided to avenge seducing the supposed cousins, Afonso and Clesio, the bride, Mercedes of one of them, and even the adoptive father. Unmasking the family, the farce ends less happy than she expected. Number 8. Peccati of Venezia 1980. Melissa, a beautiful woman in her prime. Her cousin Gianni and her elderly and paralyzed aunt Adele live in a villa in decadent Venice, Franca. A very young friend of the family comes to the villa. In a short time, the life of the three is turned upside down. Melissa, who secretly wants Gianni, cannot bear the fact that he pays attention to the beautiful guest, but even more upset is her aunt, who watches helplessly. Franca also tries to seduce Melissa. One day, not tolerating Franca's shameless conduct, Melissa strikes her with a slap, but she remains lifeless on the floor. Convinced of having killed her, she throws her body into the sea with Gianni's help. The commissioner in charge of the investigation immediately understands that something in the story is not right. In reality, Franca, sick of heart, died from the fright caused by the sudden break-in in her paralytic and mute aunt's room. Number 7. La Oscara Historia della Prima Morse 1977. It constitutes a kind of reflection that a young Ovidio Montreal makes about the deficiency of the Catalan bourgeois way of life when he interviews and makes love with a distant relative, to which the case of cousin Montse tells. A social worker who ends up falling in love with a criminal, which causes a scandal in his family. A very characteristic film of the time in which Spain began its democratic journey. There are political references in some dialogue, citing missing political parties such as UCD. It is based on the novel of the same title. Number 6. Craving Desire 1993. Luigi, who is engaged to a rich bourgeois, is trying to conclude a billionaire contract to sell to a Japanese businessman a large land for construction program. He meets his lovely cousin Sonia at the cremation of their grandmother. 6 months later, Sonia moves in and enters his life and gradually succeeds in seducing him. She upset his life. Silvia is immediately jealous, but he cannot resist the seductress. She is the cause of breaking the engagement with his fiancée. She lets him participate in love game and partner swaps, seduce his boss and ruins his career. Sonia not only decided coldly to annihilate him, but soon manifests all her own wickedness. From her secret diary, Luigi discovers strange confessions. Then he finds with horror the body of Francesca. He learns that his beautiful cousin has murdered her parents. Number 5. Patricia 1981. A young heiress leads a life of excess and wants to marry a man her rich father despises. When her father suspiciously dies and someone tries to kill her, she surrounds herself with her cousins, friends and lovers, all possible suspects. An uplifting tale of wealthy heirs who just want to be loved. Patricia achieves nothing less than the culmination of European cinema's unfulfilled promise. And Perilder's youthful exuberance is perfect for the title role, elevating the film to a plateau beyond the reach of mundane 1 to 10 rating scales. Likewise, the fortunate viewer will doubtless be elevated by the sheer joy the viewer indelibly etched into every fiber of this stunning motion picture. Number 4. Misty 1976. In a small town on a dark stormy night, Misty enters the local bar filled with lonely locals to hide from the rain. She is looking for her mother who abandoned her 22 years ago. The problem is she doesn't know what her mother's name is or what she looks like. Since her investigation will obviously take a while and she needs a place to stay, a local artist is convinced by her live-in boyfriend and girlfriend to take her in as well. In return, Misty will model for her. Later, Misty meets a young local woman and her middle-aged, guilt-ridden, well-meaning, lonely, repressed religious aunt, who wants to save her niece from what she sees as perverted, godless lifestyle. The young woman's boyfriend is always hitting on his girl's aunt, but the aunt always rebuffs him. Number 3. Cuginetta Amor Mio 1976. Poor Leonidas serves in the house of Count Aristide, his rich uncle, with the hope of getting the legacy. At last he dies in the arms of beautiful maid Ornella during an escapade. Rumors reveal that Count on his deathbed decided to leave everything to Marco, his illegitimate son who grew up secretly in a boarding school. The whole family of Leonida in the meantime had already moved to the luxurious estate of the Count, and they certainly do not want to miss out wealth. And therefore the company of the cleverer puts in place a plan to marry the hereditary Marco to Leonidas' daughter, Nicoletta, the little cousin. Leonidas' wife Elvira will also be the accomplice of the subtle plan in possibly lending her own cheekiness to the young Marco. Number 2. Alessia un vulcano sotto la pelle 1978. Alessia, a 17-year-old girl raised in a convent, just returned to the country house where she was born, finds cordiality from her uncle Nicola and a marked hostility from Aunt Agnes. Stimulated by the environment that saw her as a child and held by the old Rachel who knows everything, Alessia slowly reconstructs in memory the crime that made her orphan. Driven by jealousy, her father Antonio killed his wife Cecilia, caught red-handed adultery, and then he committed suicide. Also discovered that at the base of the crime was Aunt Agnes, determined to get her hands on the property while she recomposes the tragedy piece by piece. She takes advantage of the Fama Biagio to start playing love games. Therefore, widely navigated, she executes a diabolical plan which consists in bending Agnes to multiple loves by blackmail, and in making the betrayed Nicola rush to the opportune moment. Number 1. High School Girl 1974. Nico is a size 16-year-old boy. During the summer, he becomes acquainted with his cousin Sonia, who stay at his home for some time. She grew up in the city and is much more open and uninhibited than her cousin. An equivocal relationship between them starts to develop, which disturbs Nico's life. At the end of the summer, before leaving for Rome, Sonia finds a way of sharing her bed with him. This is rather unusual comedy for director Sergio Martino. While Martino was a master of the genre, he was mostly known for the goofy screwball bedroom passes he made with actors like Edwidge Pennage or Lino Banfi. This movie, however, is a more subtle, serious and very Italian-flavored love family comedy drama. The kind of film more commonly associated with directors like Salvatore Sempre.